أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد. The class was entirely about wiping over socks. Go ahead. Yes. So I'll show you how to do it at the end of the class, inshallah. So today we're not going to talk about wiping over socks, over our socks while doing the wudu. Then we are actually prepared to start praying, isn't it? So, but before praying, there is something which we call muqaddimat as-salah. Muqaddimat as-salah is that which precedes the salah. Things you need to do in order to ensure that you start your prayer correctly. And these things are: one, the niyyah. Now, one is the intention. Two is taharatul makan, meaning that the place where you are praying is pure. Three is taharatul badan. Three is that your body is pure, meaning that you have no najasa on your what? On your body. Then three, that your clothes are pure. That's number four. Time has entered. Six, that you face towards the qibla. And seven, that you have the intention. So these are all what we call muqaddimat as-salat. And then eight, that you cover your awra, meaning that which needs to be covered. It can be that I repeated something twice. Is that true? Yeah. So seven is covering the awra, meaning that you need to cover that which needs to be covered during prayer. Okay? Each single one of them needs to be studied in detail. Now, so the first thing, barakallahu fikum, is dukhulul waqt, meaning that you need to be sure whether the prayer time has entered or not. Now, dukhulul waqt is a condition, yani the entering of the prayer time is a condition, but also being sure that the prayer time has entered. So it's not just the prayer time, it's also you being sure of the prayer time having entered. Is the difference clear? So it's not sufficient that the prayer time has entered, but you yourself need to be sure on the inside that the time of prayer has entered. What's the difference? Let us have a look. I look at the watch now, it's for example 10 past 8, and I know that the prayer is at 12 past 8. So I read a bit, I am a bit on my phone, and I don't look at the watch again. And I say, I think that prayer time has entered now. I think two minutes have elapsed. And I pray. But there is some doubt. Like I'm not sure, but it must be. I've been on my phone for a long time. Now this prayer, where I'm not sure whether I have prayed it after the prayer time having entered, will be invalid. Even if I prayed on time. Is that clear? So if I pray, even if I pray on time, but I was not sure whether the prayer time has entered, then my prayer will still be invalid. Because al-yaqin bidukhul al-waqt, yani being sure that the prayer time has entered, is a condition for the validity of your prayer. Is that clear? Okay. So if someone prays a minute too early, then your prayer is invalid. Now, how are we going to be sure? Because when I look, maybe this watch, let us say that Isha is at 8. Like on this watch, it is 8. On my wife's watch, it's 1 minute past 8. On my friend's watch, it is 1 minute to 8. What am I going to do now? What am I going to do? Well, just adjust your with the atomic clock. You can look it up. Atomic clock on the microsecond done. If everybody does this, we don't have problems, then it's always correct. But anyway, so now when you need to look at the watch that you usually go by, If your watch is correct, of course, right? Then you up and you pray. Dukhul al-waqt. Because in reality, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not judge us whether we had to look at his watch or her watch or mine watch. My watch, it's mine. That's what I go by. Anyway, so dukhul al-waqt, immediately, dukhul al-waqt is what? Is a condition for the validity of your prayer and being sure that time has entered as well. Yes?
So like the common Muslims, like how we are now, we follow timetables. But like traditionally, it would be based on the science of reading the sky.
Mm-hmm.
So in that way, we're based on your opinion of reading the sky. So.
Okay, I understand your question.
Yeah.
Okay. What we should know, barakallahu fikum, is reading the sky was always for experts. Like it's not like in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, you would have Bilal, you would have Ibn Maktoum, and Ibn Maktoum would be blind, but Bilal wouldn't be. So that's why we say that a mu'adhin should have knowledge of the signs which show that a certain prayer time has entered. This was like that before. As for now, we go by these timetables which have been designed by experts. Like if I'm just designing it, because we live in an environment where we actually can't see the prayer times because there's too much light. Like Maghrib and Isha, how are we going to recognize this really? And the same with Dohr, you need to have a flat piece of land where you are going to put that stick, and then it should not have a shadow, or when just has a small shadow. So how are you going to do that? It's impossible. So we just go by the timetables. That's what we do. We don't go and try to do it ourselves, because we won't be able to do so. So the moment that we see on the timetable it's time, then it's time. Yes? You wanted to ask a question? That was the same question?
No, but don't worry.
No, I want your question.
No, I was going to say, is a good practice to then, just before you read, make sure you just look at the time, because then it'll ensure that your prayer is valid then.
Of course. Unless like for example, it was 1 o'clock and you went and Dohr is at 1, you went to at 10 to 1, you went to Tesco, and then you ate a little cake at Starbucks, whatever, and you come back, you definitely know that 10 minutes have passed, right? So it's really when you're in doubt about these short spaces of time, not when a long day has passed, then okay. So is that difference clear? So you need to have al-yaqeen bidukhul al-waqt, meaning the time should enter, and also you should be sure of it, that it has entered. If you're not sure, but the prayer time, and then you look, say, okay, alhamdulillah, I prayed on time. Pray again. Now the more you say, oh, alhamdulillah, it was on time, done. So anyway, so praying too early makes your prayer invalid. Praying too late doesn't make your prayer invalid, but turns you into a sinner, if you do on purpose. Okay? So praying too early is what? Is invalid. Praying too late turns you into, we will have a look at later on, then that's different. But delaying your prayers without a reason is a sin. Okay? So this is dukhul al-waqt wal-'ilm bidukhul al-waqt. So now people say, well, my job starts at 1 and Dohr is at 1:05 or 1:02. Can I now just pray right before my prayer time? Like, please allow me, 2 minutes before 1 I pray salam and I start my job. No. Praying too early is no prayer. What we need to do, we are going to look at when we will be speaking about joining between prayers. But as for now, praying too early is never accepted, unless it is a prayer time of a second prayer, like Asr coming to Dohr, but we're going to talk about that later. So that's, yes?
Sorry, so is the essence of the ruling that the prayer is invalid because of the lack of uncertainty?
No, here it's just when you pray too early, praying too early is invalid. Like,
but as in, say, I didn't check the time.
Yes, that's uncertainty. That's the very reason. But as I said, uncertainty is only when it's like you don't really know. But as in the example, when you look and you say 10 minutes to go and you go outside, you come back, then you don't need to check your watch. You just know that time has entered. Okay. So uncertainty, yes, and that's why we said yaqeen, certitude that the prayer time has entered. Is that clear? Okay. So the other thing is that if you go Allahu Akbar, right? You go Allahu Akbar, the intention you need to have is amalu bin niyat. You can't start your action and then define what it is. Is that clear? You can't start your action and then define what it is. So if it's now Asr, and I don't remember, I go Allahu Akbar, Dhuhr or Asr, then my prayer is invalid, I need to start praying again. So I do a new takbir. Very often men have this when they pray behind the Imam. You come into the mosque behind Imam, Allahu Akbar, and then in yourself you say Maghrib. Do your takbir again. Why? Because you are about to pray, yani before you start your prayer. If you don't, then your prayer is invalid. And this is why a lot of scholars have said that it is recommended for someone to utter his intention, while in reality, uttering your intention or saying your intention out loud would be a bid'ah. Now, why? Because there is no basis for this. Yani the Prophet ﷺ didn't do this. But the reason why scholars today say before you start praying, then you need to define, is this Isha, is this Maghrib, and the amount of raka'at that you're going to pray. The reason why is because people, when they enter into their prayer, they actually forget what they are about to pray. Because life, Allahu Akbar. Oh, what was it again? That's the way people go to the mosque today. So, observing your prayer. Is that clear? So, and this is why they say that you should do it. If you don't do it, your prayer is correct. It's not an obligation. It is just recommended for people who struggle with having an intention of what they are about to pray. It would be recommended for them to do so. But you shouldn't be saying it out loud as to disturb the people who are next to you. Like some people, you pray next to them, say Allahu Akbar, nawaitu, or before they say Allahu Akbar, right? Nawaitu an usalliya arba raka'at lillahi azza wa jal salat al-dhuhr, yani ada'an, Allahu Akbar. We don't need to hear this. This is to remind yourself, not the people. Okay? What did you want to say? You were first.
I think you answered my question about the niyyah, whether in heart or about.
Okay, yes.
In the Hanafi madhab, in Jamaat, do you have to recite after the Imam? I'm just asking, so then if you come in and you've not made your intention to pray,
Mm-hmm.
can you not take the intention?
No, here you can't. No. Because you have the intention to follow, but you need to know what you are following. Why? Because you can't pray a different prayer behind the Imam with a different intention. Like the Imam praying Asr and you praying Dhuhr, for example. According to the madhab, right? So you can't differ in your intention.
I don't know whether you're taking questions now or later, I'm not sure. But just joining, if I join somebody and my niyat is like Zuhur and he's doing Asr or whatever it is.
No, the intention shouldn't be different.
But if I join somebody, I don't know what he's doing. So how do I...
How do you specify? When it's Dhuhr time, you know it's Dhuhr. When it's Asr time, you know it's Asr.
At the airport, what happens is when I work at the airport,
Yeah.
people are doing, so I join somebody and I find out he's doing Asr, not Maghrib.
No.
You know what I mean? Well, it's Maghrib,
But we
it's Asr.
to these things we will come when we talk about Babul Imama.
Right, sorry, I'm jumping.
Now when we talk about leading people in prayer. So these questions are very important, but we will talk in detail about these matters when we get to that subject.
Sorry, I was jumping.
Okay. No, it's a very good question. I like your questions. Okay, so let's continue. So we had being sure that the prayer time has entered. 2 was intention. So that intention needs to be there. If your intention is in your heart and it's clear for you, that's okay. If you're a doubter or you find yourself very often making up your intention, then you are going to utter your what? Take time to specify your intention for which prayer. Then 3, yani facing the Kaaba, the Qibla, facing the Qibla is also a requirement. If you don't face the Qibla without a valid reason, then your prayer is invalid. But how are we going to do this? There are many ways to find the Qibla, and what should we do when we don't find the Qibla? We don't know where it is. So the first thing is, Muslim country, you will see the mosque, and then you will see on the outside very often the bow of the mihrab, right? Of that will be on the outside. So you look at the mosque and you know, yes, this is direction of the Qibla. We can use our phone, Qibla. We can use a compass, Qibla. We can use, if you know Yani, if you know where to look for, what to look for, you can look at the sun. You know where the Qibla is. You ask people who know. If everything, yani nothing works, we come at al-ijtihad. We come at your personal effort. So let us say it's time to pray and you're in the middle of nowhere. You're in the middle of nowhere. So now you say, okay, I don't have anybody to ask. Prayer time is about to elapse. So I have to pray. But I don't know where the Qibla is. I can't, no Wi-Fi, nothing. No signal. What am I going to do now? Well, I'm not allowed to let prayer time lapse. I need to pray on time. So here we say you are going to do ijtihad in your mind. You're going to do ijtihad in your mind. What does this mean? You are going to imagine yourself, okay, I was driving like this, London. You try to visualize, yani in front of you, where you are at and where your house is and the direction you what? You usually pray. So, and this is what you're going to do. Of course, this might be wrong. This might be wrong, but you need to do this ijtihad. If you don't know and you just go Allahu Akbar wherever it may be, Allahu Akbar, then your prayer will not be correct. It won't be valid because you need at least to do the intellectual effort to face towards the Qibla. Now, if I'm at somebody's house who prays and he said, okay, I'm going to get, something from the store. And you say, oh, I didn't pray. And you do the ijtihad, you say, okay, my house is there, while the person is gone. And then he comes back and you prayed in the wrong direction without asking him, then you need to pray again. Why? Because you had the opportunity to ask someone who knows where the direction of the Qibla is, but you didn't. So then you're going to pray it again. Okay? Yes?
Yeah, there's a small tip here of Qibla in this country.
Mm.
If you look at the satellite dishes, they all face southeast.
Allah musta'an.
This is the general direction we face.
Really? So you need to pray in the direction of, like if the satellite dish is like that, I'm going to pray like that. Okay. SubhanAllah.
No, mine doesn't point that way.
Excuse me?
Mine doesn't point that way.
No?
You are a dodgy dish.
Yes.
Going back to your scenario, if
Yes.
you're in the middle of nowhere and you try your best to do ijtihad, but what if you just don't know? Like, what if, for example, you're not good at north, east, south, west?
No, you just imagine yourself. Like, okay, I drove like this and like that. Even it's very far. You need to do that effort. If it's wrong, your prayer is right. Even if someone afterwards, after when you have prayed, tells you the Qibla was that way, your prayer is correct. Why is it correct? Because you did your ijtihad, meaning that you take all the measures that were needed. Yeah.
And if you try to find it with the sun, do you have to be an expert as well? Like,
Well, you need to know whether when it's Asr and Dhuhr, whether the sun needs to be on your right shoulder or left shoulder.
just a general knowledge, but not an expert.
Yes. What we need to know as well, Barakallahu Fikum, is the direction of the Qibla. Sometimes people make a fuss about nothing. Like they stand and they say, I think the Qibla is like this. No, my compass says it is like this. Brother, what should we do? Like this or like that? This angle is no angle. You know, we are facing the direction of Mecca, but do you really think if that you were to walk in a straight line, that you would touch the Kaaba? You may be happy when you arrive in Mecca. You see? No, I mean, because you should imagine, like the margin on a short distance, you know, when I'm like this, I might touch it. But the longer it becomes, the what? The wider it becomes. And this is like when people, they make a fuss about this or about that or about that. It is no problem. And this is why we say people can be categorized into three. People who are in the mosque of Mecca, people who are in Mecca, and people who are outside of Mecca. Three kinds of people. The people who pray in the mosque of Mecca, they should, if they were to walk in a straight line, they should touch the Qibla. No? So the people in the mosque, if they were to go like this, it should be right on. If it's the corner, the middle, we don't care. As long as you touch it, if you were to walk straight on. The people outside, in Mecca, outside of the mosque, if they are far away, but still in Mecca, if they were to walk, it should be in a straight line, they should be touching the mosque. And then the people, the haram yani. And the people outside of Mecca, if they were to walk in a straight line, they should arrive at Mecca. You see? So that are the three different categories. And now people, they really, do you really think, if I'm like this or like that, oh, now I'm not touching the Qibla, now I'm touching the Qibla? I might be kilometers off. You see? So this is why, barakallahu fikum, that there is an angle, so you shouldn't have too much waswasa about it. It's also not just like, okay, this or that, left or right, that would be problematic. Now in an airplane, what do we do now in an airplane? Well, our scholars differ about an airplane. They say when you are in the air, there is no qibla. When you are in the air, up in the air, there is no qibla, because the qibla is down there. So wherever you face, it's not towards the qibla, is it? So now you have those who philosophize, they say, but there's a qibla in the skies, and that qibla is right above that qibla, so the direction is right in between the qibla of the earth and the qibla of the sky. We were not asked to base fiqh on the world of the unseen. Okay, so no qiyas, no analogy. So what are we going to do now? Well, they say what you do is you ask, like sometimes you see the map, right? And then you're going anyway, you're going to turn towards the qibla. But you need to know, even though you don't feel the plane moving, and kilometers off. So to emphasize on where is the qibla, the moment you ask and the moment you start praying, it's maybe no longer that direction, if you understand what I mean. So what we are going to do, out of respect, we are going to ask where the qibla is, and then we are going to pray in that direction. And then when you feel that the plane moves and turns, don't move and turn with the plane. No? So that's number one. As for those who say on a plane there is no qibla, then you can just pray in any direction which is easy at that particular moment. Because there is no qibla. So now, barakallahu fikum, the question is praying on an airplane. Praying on an airplane, we ask for permission. If we can pray, can I pray please? If they say no, what should we do? Well, if you want to go to Guantanamo, you still do it. You say Allahu Akbar with a very loud voice, and that's where you end up. This is the times we live in. This is, subhanAllah, before it didn't used to be like that. But like now, when just by praying on American Airlines towards New York, you might, be stopped by border police, and before you know it, be accused of strange things. So anyway, I never found problems when I pray. When I pray, even on the street or in a parking, wherever I have to pray, I pray. I never experienced any problems. But on an airplane, you might. So what do? You ask. And if they say no, then you can just either wait until you land and still pray on time, or you pray your prayer while seated, and then according to some fuqaha, it would be recommended to then when you land to do the i'ada of your prayer. The i'ada of your prayer, we have three categories of prayer. We have al-ada, we have al-i'ada, and we have al-qada. Al-ada, al-i'ada, al-qada. Al-ada means that you prayed your prayer on time with all the conditions and all the requirements. Then the qada is when you pray too late. You didn't pray on time, you're praying now, that's qada. I'ada is that you pray a prayer that you had already prayed, but because of a reason you didn't fulfill the requirements, you are praying it again. Like somebody not asking for the direction of the qibla, prayed, turned out to be wrong, well, you need to do i'ada. We're not going to say qada. Qada, because qada is making up a prayer which you hadn't prayed. Is that clear? So some scholars would say that if you prayed seated, while there is not really actually a true reason for it apart from a person saying, no, you can't pray in my plane, then you can actually do i'ada after it, according to some scholars, istihbaban. It would be recommended but not obligatory. Okay? Is that clear? Any questions about the qibla? Yes?
Yes.
Please.
What's the nuanced from the Quran? Is it to pray in any direction or to find the
No, we would find the Qibla and then we would pray in that direction. That would be the core of the madhab.
And you must first try to pray standing up.
Yes,
And only
yes,
if you can't find
yes,
space or it's difficult,
yes,
then it's possible.
yes. So never, straight away, never praying seated is never allowed if one didn't try to find the means to pray standing up. Is that clear? So it's the same thing like, for example, okay, now you're going to pray seated. Let us say because they didn't allow you, plane is in panic if you were to say Allahu Akbar standing up and doing sujood. So now what you need to know is that standing up there where you can, do it. So you can just stand up like in front of Allah while standing up. And then you can still do your ruku like somebody bowing down. Like, and where is 90 degrees, remember? It can be less. And then for your sujood, you sit on your chair. You go, no, you don't have to. According to us, you don't need to do i'adah. The Shafi'iyah would give preference to doing i'adah.
What about a woman? Say, for example, there was room to pray.
No, for a woman in public, she has different rulings. Yes, so for a woman in public, they would recommend her to avoid any possible problems or any possible critique or people being offensive or whatever. So then our scholars say a woman would be given priority in praying seated over a man who should even do more. So it would be the same, a woman praying in public, she would pray while having some her, like a wall behind her. Her ruku' will never be 90 degrees, and her sujood and ruku' will be very quick, and she will try to make herself as small as.
It would be preferable for her to sit.
Then she would sit. Yes, then she would sit. Due to the haya at that particular instance. Yes. No.
Yeah, there's a bit of confusion talking about aeroplane finding the Qibla.
Yes.
Now, I've said to several people, for example, you look at when you're taking off from New York and you're going to Jeddah, right? Now, you would immediately think from New York to Jeddah, the Qibla is going back roughly southeast.
Mm-hmm.
But the aeroplane doesn't fly, it flies the shortest route. In other words, people forget the world is round. It's actually flying northeast is going, and it's going over the top. So it's actually taking a direction towards the Qibla, but it's not pointing to the actual Qibla, if you see what I mean. But it is, because the world, people forget the world is round. And that's where the confusion actually lies. Some people see it on a map. When you see it on a map as a flat, you'll see it flat, but the world is actually round. So basically, one of the tips is, if you're going to a destination, you know where it's going to be southeast. Follow where the airplane is going in that direction, because that's the shortest distance to Qibla.
MashaAllah, that's the next one.
Because if people forget the world is round, and an aeroplane never flies a straight line. Like for instance, London to New York, it always takes a curvature.
Yes.
So it's following the shortest route, and the world is round.
Yes. So people traveling to New York,
Yeah.
MashaAllah, you know now. Thank you very much. Okay, so is that matter clear? We have, yes.
Sorry, but it's just there's so much controversy about airplane things that if you did just pray sitting down,
Yes.
and do i'adah when you landed, would you be sinful?
No. If you tried to do your best to fulfill the requirements, but we say if you're sure that you are going to land on time, if you would then have prayed while sitting, that wouldn't be correct, because within that time, then you will have to pray again. But if you know that the prayer time is going to elapse before you land, then in the Hanafi madhab, we don't have joining prayers together. So we don't do that, apart during the Hajj at particular moments, but we don't do that. So then, no, definitely you will have to pray that prayer again. No.
I've had a situation where I was coming into land.
No.
It's Fajr time. Now the captain's put the seatbelts on, and we've got to sit.
Yeah.
Can't get up, do anything.
That's for your safety.
Yeah, that's right. So when if we've landed and the Fajr time is just gone, can we still pray or not on land?
No, if you know that you're going to land after prayer time has elapsed, then you're going to pray your prayer, then seated while the seatbelt sign is on. Because you're not allowed to delay your prayer for no reason. So if that is the only thing which is within your possibility is being seated while praying, then that's what you will be doing. Okay? But we don't bring anything to our forehead. Like some people say, they take a book and they go like this, for example, to feel the sujood, you know. So don't do that. No.
Don't you have to bring the table? You know, some people have a table in front of you. People bring the table.
What people do when they pray seated, they will take the chair immediately. That's what they do. They take a chair and they pray on the chair. While what they should actually try to do is to be seated on the ground, so that if they are able to perform the sujood, then that gets priority. So now people, what they do, they say Allahu Akbar and they sit immediately. While the same people, I'm not saying everybody, who sit on a chair after their Allahu Akbar are the same people that you see standing up who talking to their friends. You see, like standing up is one of the requirements in prayer, right? So you go Allahu Akbar and they sit. But then when they go outside of the mosque, they keep on talking while standing. So why weren't you able to stand in prayer, but you're able to stand in front of the mosque for 15 minutes? So that's wrong. So what we are going to try to do is, if it's difficult for you to get back up after your sujood, then you are going to perform everything in your prayer which you can perform. You do your takbir, you do your fatiha, you do your ruku', you come back up, and then you go down, you perform your 2 sujoods, and then if it's difficult for you to get back up, stay seated on the ground. Is that clear? So the chairs in the mosque is actually something new. Now people wouldn't praying on a chair that would be actually in churches. Praying on a chair is in church. So now the first thing people do in a mosque, they put chairs, like when people come, just chair here, chair there. Can you bring 2 chairs, please? I want to show something. Yeah. So what you should do is then do the first rak'ah completely and then sit down on the floor so that you are closer to your position of sujood. And then when it's sujood, you perform your sujood and you perform your ruku', like moving forwards, coming back after your ruku', and then performing your sujood. Now, I'm sorry, I'm going to, okay. So we're going to do it here so that the sisters can see as well. So, you please, and you as well. Okay, so we have the chair. If the sisters can come like this, please, so you can see. So, I'm standing here. Where are you going to place the chairs? So I'm now here. So the first thing we need to know, these lines, right? So what people usually do, they put their toes on the same line. That's wrong. You should put your heels on the same line. Because, feet are longer. But this is what Prophet ﷺ would inspect the rows. So the Prophet ﷺ, what he would do, he would go lines, and then he would look, he say, you bit to the front, you bit to the back, and then he would go like what? Like a general going in the Rabbiha. Yani, why don't you straighten your lines like the angels straightens in front of their Lord? And in front here, figuratively speaking, not literally. So now if you see this, that's the first mistake people make. So now what we need to do is the ankles. When the ankles are on the same line, the shoulders will be on the same line. This, the bellies, they might stick out, but that's not the problem. But this will be all in line. That's number one. So now, my ankles are here. Where are you going to pray? Like the people that pray on a chair, where do they usually put the chair?
Should be the shoulders.
So, what do people usually do? Not what they should do. What do people usually do? Do they put it like this? Do they put it like that? Like this?
Yeah, same as the heel. Yeah.
Same as the heel.
Yeah.
But the heels of people are not alike, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but indeed, they should. Is that what you are saying?
Yeah.
Okay. So meaning that when they are now going to perform their opening technique, they will be in front of the line.
Correct.
Is that clear? Okay. So now what we were explaining, Nisar, is that the sunnah, because that allows them to perform sujood. One of the most important actions within prayer. So what they do is they would perform their first rak'ah entirely, and then they would remain seated, and then they would do like do this, and then they would go for their sujood, because the sujood is one of these major actions, and it's better to be closer to sujood. The other problem is what people do is this one. They do their takbir, Allahu Akbar, and they sit immediately. And we said, if you sit without a reason, then your prayer is not okay. Because standing up while you are reciting as we will see, and it's one of these integral parts of your prayer. So now, people, they stand up for the Fatiha, but they can stand up on the parking for 10-15 minutes. So that's a problem, because you are taking away something of your prayers, which is a integral part of your prayer. So this is something that should be taught to the people. And then we said too, they sit and then they remain seated. So it's that when the person sits down, that his shoulders will be in line with mine. So this is very important. So now you have this excess of chairs in mosques. While I'm not saying it's bad, may Allah reward you for all the chairs. So, but originally the chairs were in churches.
No. When you say people stand up for hours,
the moment you sit down and it's difficult for you to get up, there is no problem.
stay
But in your first rak'ah, you can stand up. Why in the first rak'ah, immediately Allahu Akbar and you sit down? It's an integral part of your prayer.
So
You
it's
see?
important to stand up, basically.
Yes, people should stand up and they should say, because my chair is there and I put it together in the same line with the heels of the people, so I'm not in line. So the chair is causing some problems. Either it is people leaving their integral part of prayer, which if they don't rectify it might lead to their what? Invalidating their prayer. So, and they're not in line. So the chairs have brought problems to mosques, which is in need of fiqh. No.
Yeah, because I've seen in most Arab countries, they have a kind of a wall, and it's all in line, and everybody's heels against the wall. And those who need to sit down, they just sit down, and the others go down. So the wall is actually in line. So is that okay?
What I know is that wall is usually used to listen to lectures of the Shaykh. So I didn't know that it was to sit on.
Well, I've seen,
Yeah. So usually they have in the first two rows,
Yeah.
you can lean against it when the Shaykh gives a lecture. Yeah.
But now people sit on it because
Okay.
they don't have chairs.
All right. So is the chair? So don't use a chair when it's not needed, and only use it there where it is needed. Like if you perform your ruku', why are you sitting on a chair? Perform your ruku'. If your difficulty is getting out of, you need to use the chair in harmony with your need. Meaning that if you use the chair to do something which you can do as it should be done, and you leave it out knowingly, then your prayer will be invalid if you don't rectify it. No.
Is there a difference of opinion between the schools in terms of, so we've been talking from the Hanafi perspective that if a rukn of your salah you can't perform, you're in need of chair. For example, you can't, just say you can't sit in this position, so you'll use the chair, and you must maintain the sitting position throughout. But what you're saying is that even then, the position that
No, in your first rak'ah, so if you start your prayer standing, when you, the moment that you need to sit, you can remain seated. Is that clear?
That's clear.
Okay, yes.
Because the first God and what?
Yes, because there is no reason yet to sit.
Sit, yeah.
It is the moment when you did your Fatiha, and now you're going to sit, now you remain seated. But the problem is, I was talking about the first rak'ah, this is problematic. Because there's no reason, if you understand. So from the moment you sit, we're not asking you, okay, struggle and get up. But before your struggle starts, why are you sitting? So that's the point I'm trying to make. Yeah.
But it's okay for them when they stand up because they're out of line, they can stand up out of line because they need to sit down there.
Yes, that is when there are chairs. But if they were to sit on the ground, they would be standing in line. But some people find it difficult to sit on the ground as well.
Yeah, because they can't.
Yes, exactly. Okay, khair. What did we talk about? We spoke about?
Yes.
No, before that.
Standing.
No, the first thing. Dukhulul waqt. So the prayer time it's not sufficient for the prayer time to have entered, but you should also be sure that prayer time has entered. If you pray your prayer while you doubt whether the prayer time has entered, then your prayer is not valid even if your prayer time would have entered. Okay, so al-yaqeen bi dukhulil waqt. Then we said too, at-tawajjuh ila al-qibla. So that you're sure that you are facing We said it either by asking, either by a compass, either by looking at the structure, but you have to do that. This is required. Okay? And then what was the third thing we mentioned? That was the third. Okay, no, okay. What is the second then? Niyyah. So we spoke about the niyyah. What did we say about the niyyah? Before the action. So when I go Allahu Akbar and then I say, oh yeah, it's Dhuhr, I just do my takbir again. What else? What?
You have to state the prayer that you're praying, right?
Yes, we said uttering the niyyah originally was not required. But we said in a time where people forget, they remind themselves before prayer so that they are sure that they are praying the prayer that they have to pray. Yes.
So is there an Arabic to the niyyah, as in, like you intend, I was taught in Urdu actually what to say before standing, and then when you do that intention. Is there something from the sunnah of like I'm standing?
No, straight from the sunnah not. Because we do this istihsanan, right? So the reason why we say it is not because there's a hadith. The reason why we do it is because our fuqaha, they taught us it's better to do it because otherwise we will commit errors. So what we explained before, Sayyidi, was that what we find in the adab, usually in our kutub al-fiqh of the Ahnaf, we're just talking about Hanafi fiqh, right? So we have the wajibat, the sunan, and then very often, like for example in wudu, we'll find adab al-wudu. Very often that which they define as adab is that for which there is no straightforward, clear-cut proof. That's what they call adab. Like for example, not speaking during the wudu. There is no sound hadith, but it's from the adab. Drinking the water that you have performed wudu with, that's not in hadith, it's from adab. Okay? So this is why it is important to know that uttering the niyyah is something which the fuqaha have recommended, although that there is no straightforward dalil for it. Is that clear? So now, which is very strange, because fiqh usually has nothing to do, or the fuqaha don't engage themselves with tarbiyah. It's just the fiqh rule done. But here, it is actually connected to tarbiyah more than it is connected to fiqh, if you understand what I mean. It is an etiquette that they have introduced, or an action to help you define which prayer you are about to pray. But there's no straightforward dalil. But what we would say is for example, توجهت إلى الله. Nam. Is that in Urdu as well?
No, I was asking. No, wait. If you make it, how would you?
توجهت إلى الله عز وجل ونويت أن أصلي 4 ركعات الظهر أداء. Because we spoke about أداء, إعادة and قضاء.
Where can you get these words from?
Yeah. I was going to say, where can you
You actually find here. No, but you find them in the fiqh books. Yeah, in the fiqh books you find them. Yes. So
translation is no different to Urdu.
But it's the same.
Very close to Urdu.
So you'll understand Arabic. Finished. No. So that's what he said. Yani, and then of course with the emphasis on ada and not qada. Yes.
Qada is making up a missed prayer.
Yes.
I'ada is repeating the prayer.
Yes.
And ada is praying on time.
Yes. Ahsant.
I didn't hear that. Can you say that?
So qada is making up a prayer you didn't pray. You pray too late, and you make up that prayer. I'ada is when you have prayed, it didn't fulfill all the requirements of the prayer. No? Like for example, you prayed, but you didn't try to figure out where the qibla was. Now you are going to do i'ada. And ada is when you pray on time and that all the conditions and prerequisites are met. Is that clear? So that's the difference between i'ada, qada and ada. Yes.
Can you clarify on the niyyah? You're in a jama'at, the jama'at is going on, and you just come in, and they are in ruku. I've seen people just doing Allahu Akbar. Do you have to make the intention before you actually go into ruku?
You always need the intention, of course.
You need to have
Yes, you need to know what you are praying, and you need to define for yourself that you are praying as a ma'mum.
and then you actually go into ruku.
Yeah. You need to know whether you are praying as a munfarid, as an imam or as a ma'mum.
Okay, I don't know what the people actually do, but I see people just say Allahu Akbar and then they don't.
Yeah, I don't know what they do either. But okay.
We need to
I'm
know
worried
what
about
we do.
myself.
Okay.
I'm worried about myself.
That's where it came from.
But it could be Ustad that the niyyah stems from the
Of course,
heart,
yes.
So they would know bil yaqeen,
Yes.
what they're going to
Yes, definitely.
So
Yeah.
it's just istighfar that they're going to
Yes.
So they would know what they're praying, so they just say Allah Akbar to
Yes.
touch the ruku.
Yes. No.
What if you make your intention like as soon as you make your wudu or something, like you have the intention of going to pray Maghrib, but you don't do the intention when you come and stand, ready to stand.
They would say if there's waqtul yasir. Waqt yasir, meaning you are there, you perform your wudu, and you have in your mind, I'm going to pray dhuhr, and you come, that would be okay. But if a time elapses, then no.
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
No. Straight after wouldn't be a problem. So anyway, then we spoke about tawajjuh ila al-qibla. There were three kinds of people who faced the qibla. Who were they? People in the mosque, people in Mecca but outside of the mosque, and people outside of Mecca. People who are in Mecca, in the mosque, if they walk straight, they would touch the qibla. People who are in the outskirts of Mecca, if they were to walk straight, they would need to touch the haram somewhere. People outside of Mecca, they pray in the direction of Mecca, because we said the margin between this and this, when it's 10,000 kilometers, believe me, you're far off. So, and then we said, so this is why we don't make a fuss about this or that. No? So that was it. What were the other conditions that we said, or that which needs to precede prayer?
No najasa on clothes, body,
And what else?
covering the aura.
Covering the aura, and then we said taharatul makan, taharatu al-abdan, and taharatu al-libas. Meaning that the place where you pray, that the clothes that you wear, and the body, that your body is free of najasa. Najasa is not the same as filth. Najasa is that which the shara' declared as being najis. So it's not like I have mud, so now this is not good, I need to clean it, otherwise I can't pray. That's of the etiquette of prayer, but it's not what invalidating your prayer if that would be present. But next time, inshallah, tabarak wa ta'ala, we will tread in detail about the najasa, because now we need to know what najasa is so that we are sure that the place and the body and the clothes are free from najasa. And we will have a look at a lot of things, like all of a sudden you're praying and you recall that you have najasa on your clothes. For example, you were changing the diaper of your child and you knew it. So now I prayed. Is my prayer valid or invalid? I remember it during my prayer. Is it valid or invalid? If I see it during my prayer, should I remove it or not? When can I remove it and it doesn't invalidate my prayer? When do I remove it and it does invalidate my prayer? Is there a difference between me knowing it, then forgetting it, or never having known it before having entered into my prayer? So these are all different situations. Like I have najasa on the carpet. What kind of carpet? Like if it's there and I'm praying here, that's the same carpet. Is that a problem? What about najasa being liquid? It's under my carpet, but it wasn't absorbed by the carpet, and I prayed on it. Is that a problem, yes or no? So all of these things we are going to see next week, inshallah, tabarak wa ta'ala, so that we know all these details. Because to be quite frank, this knowledge is required in order for you to have a valid prayer. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it beneficial, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless Ashford and Staines Community Center. Ameen, and to make it bigger and better, and inshallah in deen and dunya and akhirah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless them and to let them always be at the surface of the Muslimin. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove every kind of suffering from the earth. La ilaha illa anta ya Rabbi subhanaka inni kuntu min al-zalimin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.